The slap against Olivia Newell's cheek stung, but it was the humiliation that truly burned. Lord Darlington's dinner guests pretended not to notice, their eyes fixed on their plates as the nobleman's voice rose above the clink of silverware. Inedible. You call this French cuisine? My stable boys eat better than this. Olivia kept her eyes lowered, the weight of 16 years pressing down on her shoulders though she was merely 22. The dining room of Darlington Manor, with its mahogany panels and gleaming silver, had become her prison these last 3 years. Ever since her father, once a respected chef to London's elite, had fallen ill with consumption. I apologize, my lord, she murmured, gathering the offending plate. The sauce had separated, a cardinal sin in French cookery, but she had been rushing, trying to manage the entire kitchen alone after Lord Darlington had dismissed half the staff in another of his economizing fits. Later that night, as Olivia tended to her father in their small quarters above the carriage house, William Newell took her hand. His once robust frame had withered, but his eyes remained sharp. You must leave this place, Livy, he whispered between labored breaths. Your mother would never have wanted this for you. And abandon you? Never. She dabbed at his forehead with a cool cloth. Besides, where would I go? The consumption has ruined your name among the great houses. No one will hire the daughter of William Newell now. Her father's eyes clouded with shame. Once, he had been celebrated throughout London, his culinary prowess sought by dukes and earls. Now, they were fortunate Lord Darlington had kept them on out of some vestigial loyalty to her father's former reputation. There's a letter, William said, reaching beneath his pillow with trembling fingers. From an old friend in Rodvostock. Prince Isaac Demetriou is seeking a chef for his private residence. The northern province is remote, but the prince is known to be fair. Olivia took the letter, her heart racing. Rodvostock, a distant province of the Avalonian Empire, nestled between mountains and sea. She had heard tales of its beauty, of the imperial family's summer palace built of pale stone overlooking the Argent Bay. Father, this is dated 3 months ago. I couldn't bear to tell you, he confessed. But now I fear I must. Take the position if it's still available. Save yourself from Darlington. 2 weeks later, William Newell drew his final breath as dawn broke over London's slate rooftops. Olivia buried him in the small churchyard where her mother also rested, then packed what little she owned. The telegram from Prince Demetriou had arrived the day before, the position remained open. The prince's private secretary had added a curious postscript: His Highness insists on tasting your work before final appointment. Bring ingredients for your finest dish. The journey to Rodvostock took 10 days, by steam train across the continent, then by ship across the narrow strait that separated the mainland from the Avalonian archipelago. As they approached the harbour, Olivia stood on deck, the salt spray stinging her eyes, or perhaps it was tears. The city rose before her, white and gleaming against verdant hills, unlike anything she had seen in England. At the harbour, a man in the formal livery of the imperial household awaited her. Miss Newell? I am Stefan, Prince Demetriou's steward. His Highness awaits you at Silvershore House. The carriage wound through streets of whitewashed buildings with blue-tiled roofs, climbing steadily until they reached the northern promontory where the prince's private residence stood. Smaller than she had imagined, Silvershore House was nonetheless elegant, a 3-story mansion of local stone with large windows overlooking the bay. Stefan led her through halls adorned with tapestries and paintings depicting the province's history. His Highness will see you in the kitchen, he explained. He prefers directness in these matters. The kitchen was a revelation after the cramped, smoke-blackened space at Darlington Manor. Copper pots hung from iron racks, gleaming in the sunlight that streamed through tall windows. A massive hearth dominated one wall, while the center featured a marble-topped work table large enough for 3 chefs to work side by side. It's beautiful, Olivia breathed, setting down her small case of ingredients. And woefully underutilized. She turned at the deep voice. A man stood in the doorway, tall and broad-shouldered, with ink-black hair and eyes the color of the Aegean. He wore the simple navy uniform of the imperial naval officers, without the elaborate decorations one might expect of a prince. Only the signet ring bearing the imperial seal marked his rank. Olivia curtsied deeply. Your Highness. Prince Isaac Demetriou, he confirmed with a slight bow. Third son of Emperor Alexandros, governor of Rodvostok province, and, as you can see, a man with an excellent kitchen and no one to properly use it. His frankness caught her off guard. She had expected formality, perhaps even hauteur. Instead, he gestured toward her case. Stefan tells me you've brought ingredients. What will you prepare? With your permission, Your Highness, a dish my father created for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. Roasted quail with cherry wine reduction, accompanied by wild mushroom risotto. A flicker of interest crossed his face. Ambitious for a first meeting. The kitchens are at your disposal. For the next 2 hours, Olivia worked with single-minded focus, aware of the prince watching from a chair in the corner. He asked occasional questions about techniques or ingredients but mostly observed in silence. It was unnerving, yet somehow less intimidating than cooking for Lord Darlington's sneering guests. When she finally presented the dish, arranged precisely on fine porcelain, Prince Isaac studied it before taking a bite. His expression remained neutral as he chewed, then took another bite. And another. Miss Newell, he said finally, setting down his fork. I've interviewed 7 chefs from across the empire. None understood what I required until now. And what is it you require, Your Highness? A shadow passed over his features. Honesty. In all things, but especially in food. He gestured to the plate. This dish tells a story of tradition honored but not blindly followed. Of balance achieved through contrasts. Sweet against savory, rich against bright. He met her gaze directly. I need a chef who understands that complexity isn't confusion and simplicity isn't surrender. Olivia felt her cheeks warm under his scrutiny. My father taught me that cooking is the most honest art. We cannot hide behind pretense when hunger is the judge. Something in his expression softened. Your father was William Newell? I remember his work from a state dinner in London years ago. His absence will be felt in culinary circles. Thank you, Your Highness. The position is yours, if you wish it. Room and board, naturally, plus a salary commensurate with your skills. You would have authority over kitchen staff and menus, answerable only to me. He paused. I should warn you that life in Rodvostok is quieter than London. We have our social season when the imperial family visits in summer, but winters are long here. Quiet sounds perfect, Your Highness. And so Olivia Newell became chef to Prince Isaac Demetriou, third son of the Avalonian Empire, in the spring of 1897. The first months passed in a blur of adjustments. Olivia learned to work with local ingredients, the sweet blue crabs from the bay, wild herbs from the surrounding hills, the province's famous white plums that appeared briefly in late summer. She studied the regional cuisine, incorporating its flavors into her repertoire while maintaining the classical techniques her father had instilled. Prince Isaac proved an exacting employer but not an unkind one. He preferred simple breakfasts, often eaten while reviewing provincial matters in his study. Luncheon was typically served to various officials and dignitaries, requiring more formal presentations. Dinners varied, sometimes elaborate affairs for visiting nobility, other times just the prince dining alone with a book for company. Olivia noticed patterns in his preferences. He favored dishes with clear flavors rather than heavy sauces, appreciated unexpected combinations that nonetheless made culinary sense, and harbored a weakness for citrus in any form. But most striking was his engagement with food. He never ate distractedly, never treated meals as mere necessity. The difference between sustenance and dining, he told her once, after complimenting a particularly successful experiment with local fish, is attention. Food deserves respect, as does its creator. As summer approached, the household prepared for the imperial family's annual visit. Staff were added, rooms long shuttered were opened and aired, and Olivia found herself planning menus for state dinners that would showcase both her skills and the province's bounty. The Empress has particular tastes, Stefan warned as they reviewed preparations. And the Crown Prince considers himself something of a culinary expert since his tour of France. Are they very demanding? Olivia asked, thinking of Lord Darlington's tantrums. They are imperial, Stefan replied simply. But His Highness will shield you from any difficulties. He is protective of his household. The observation lingered in Olivia's mind. She had noticed the prince's loyalty to those who served him, from his steward to the elderly gardener who had tended Silvershore's grounds for 40 years. It was a quality her father would have approved. The imperial entourage arrived on a perfect June morning, the emperor's yacht gliding into the harbour amid cannon salutes and cheering crowds. From the kitchen windows, Olivia watched the procession wind up the coastal road to Silvershore, outriders in imperial livery, gleaming carriages, and finally the imperial standard flying above the emperor's barouche. That evening, she prepared a welcome dinner for the family in Silvershore's formal dining room. Course after course emerged from her kitchen, each met with appreciation, if not the wholehearted enjoyment Prince Isaac typically displayed. The emperor, a stern man in his 60s, offered brief compliments. The empress, still beautiful though her dark hair had silvered, was more effusive. "Isaac, you found quite a treasure," she remarked as dessert was served. "English training but with sensitivity to our traditions. Most impressive." "Miss Newell is exceptionally talented," Prince Isaac agreed. "Rodvostok is fortunate to have secured her services." Only Crown Prince Theodore seemed unimpressed, picking at his food with barely concealed disdain. "Adequate," he pronounced when directly questioned, though lacking the refinement one finds in Paris. A tense silence followed his assessment. Olivia, serving the dessert wine herself as was her custom for important meals, felt her hand tremble slightly. "Perhaps," Prince Isaac replied evenly, "my brother might benefit from a tour of Rodvostok's markets before judging its cuisine. One cannot appreciate what one does not understand." The Crown Prince's eyes narrowed, but the Emperor intervened with a question about provincial matters, smoothly changing the subject. Later, as Olivia supervised the kitchen cleanup, Prince Isaac appeared in the doorway. He dismissed the staff with a gesture, waiting until they were alone before speaking. "I must apologize for my brother's rudeness." "There's no need, Your Highness. I've served difficult diners before." A wry smile touched his lips. Theodore has always believed criticism demonstrates discernment. He's wrong, of course. True discernment reveals what is worthy, not merely what is flawed. His defense warmed her more than it should have. "Thank you, Your Highness." "You've nothing to thank me for," he said quietly. "Your work speaks for itself." The imperial visit lasted 3 weeks, during which Olivia's skills were tested as never before. State dinners for foreign dignitaries, picnics in the hills surrounding the city, formal luncheons for provincial nobles, each required different approaches, different considerations of politics and precedents expressed through food. Through it all, she noticed how Prince Isaac differed from his family. Where they expected deference, he invited conversation. Where they saw servants as functions, he saw people. Most revealing were the private dinners he arranged for visiting scholars, artists, and local officials, meals where ideas flowed as freely as wine, where rank mattered less than intellect. One evening, after such a dinner had concluded, Olivia found herself alone with the prince in the kitchen. The guests, a visiting botanist, the provincial librarian, and a poet from the university, had departed, and she was preparing a simple tisane the prince often took before retiring. "You're quiet tonight," he observed, leaning against the doorframe. "Just tired, Your Highness." She strained the herbal infusion into his favorite porcelain cup. "The dinner went well, I thought." Professor Antonide seemed particularly pleased with the fish. "You're deflecting." He accepted the cup, his fingers briefly touching hers. "Something's troubling you. Tell me." The directness of his request, not quite an order, but more than a suggestion, broke through her careful reserve. "I overheard Crown Prince Theodore speaking to the Duchess of Melbrook." "About me?" Prince Isaac's expression darkened. "What did my brother say?" "That it was inappropriate for you to have an unmarried Englishwoman living under your roof. That my presence might cause speculation." "I see." He set down the cup untouched. "And this concerns you?" "I wouldn't wish to damage your reputation, Your Highness." He studied her for a long moment. Do you know why I insisted on tasting your cooking before hiring you?" The abrupt change of subject startled her. I assumed it was standard practice. No. He stepped closer. 5 years ago, I was poisoned at a diplomatic reception in Vienna. A slow-acting compound that damaged my palate, among other things. His hand unconsciously touched his left side. For nearly 2 years afterward, everything tasted of metal and ash. Doctors said the condition was permanent. Olivia gasped softly. "But you recovered?" "Partially. Certain flavors remained elusive. Food became functional. Until your quail with cherry reduction." A smile touched his lips. That dish was the first time in years I tasted complexity again. Sweetness. Depth. His voice lowered. It was like finding a color I'd forgotten existed. The intensity of his gaze made her breath catch. "I didn't know." "Few do. The imperial family keeps its vulnerabilities private." He straightened. "Since that day, only your cooking has fully awakened my senses. I cannot taste anyone else's work completely, it's as though their dishes have pieces missing." "Is that why you never take meals at the provincial palace?" "Yes. And why I rejected 7 qualified chefs before you." He took her hand, a gesture so unexpected she couldn't pull away. "So you see, Miss Newell, my brother's concerns about propriety are insignificant compared to what you've restored to me. Let them talk. I need you here." That night, Olivia lay awake long after the house had quieted, replaying the prince's words. *I need you here*. Not her skills, not her service, but her. The distinction felt important, though she dared not examine why. The following days brought a noticeable shift in their interactions. Prince Isaac began taking more meals in the kitchen rather than the dining room, ostensibly to discuss menus but often lingering to talk of books, music, or his travels. He asked about her childhood in London, her training under her father, her dreams before circumstances had narrowed her path. For her part, Olivia found herself anticipating these conversations, preparing questions about Rodvostok's history or the prince's naval career before his return to imperial service. She learned he had commanded a frigate during the Marivic conflict, earning distinction for bravery and tactical innovation. That he spoke 5 languages fluently and read 3 more. That despite his position, he preferred simplicity in all things except ideas. As the imperial visit drew to a close, Emperor Alexandros hosted a farewell ball at the provincial palace. Tradition required the entire household to attend, including senior staff. Olivia, who had packed nothing suitable for such an occasion, was astonished when a package arrived in her quarters, a gown of deep sapphire silk, accompanied by a note in Prince Isaac's distinctive hand, * for services to the imperial household. Your presence is requested, not your service, this evening. The gown fit perfectly, though she couldn't imagine how he had known her measurements. Stefan's wife, Marina, helped with her hair, arranging it in a simple but elegant style adorned with small pearl pins. You look beautiful, Marina declared, stepping back to admire her work. The prince will be pleased. Olivia felt her cheeks warm. It's just a formal obligation. Marina's knowing smile suggested otherwise, but she said nothing more. The provincial palace blazed with light as Olivia arrived with the household staff. Imperial guards in ceremonial uniform stood at attention along the grand staircase, while liveried footmen directed guests to the ballroom. Inside, crystal chandeliers illuminated a space transformed by flowers and gilded decorations, the provincial elite mingling with imperial courtiers. Feeling acutely out of place, Olivia retreated to the perimeter of the room, observing the spectacle with quiet fascination. She had attended formal events at Darlington Manor, but always as staff, never as a guest. The elaborate gowns, the measured cadence of court etiquette, the subtle hierarchies expressed through seating and precedence, all were familiar yet utterly foreign from this perspective. Miss Newell. She turned to find Prince Isaac approaching, resplendent in full dress uniform adorned with the imperial sash and medals from his naval service. The sight momentarily robbed her of speech. Your Highness, she managed finally, dropping into a curtsy. "The gown suits you," he said, his eyes warm with appreciation. "It's beautiful. Thank you for your generosity." "Not generosity. Recognition." He offered his arm. "Would you do me the honor of a dance?" Panic flickered through her. "I'm not certain that would be appropriate, Your Highness. And I'm not skilled at court dances." "Then we shall walk in the gardens instead. The night air will be refreshing after the journey from Silvershore." Before she could formulate a polite refusal, they were moving through the crowd, his presence parting the sea of guests like a ship's bow through water. Olivia felt the weight of curious stares, heard the murmur of speculation rising in their wake, but Prince Isaac seemed oblivious, or perhaps indifferent, to the attention. The palace gardens opened behind tall glass doors, illuminated by paper lanterns strung among the trees. Formal paths wound through beds of local flowers, their fragrance sweetening the night air. In the distance, the bay glittered under a rising moon. "You must think me terribly forward," Prince Isaac said as they walked. "Forcing you into society when you clearly prefer your kitchen." "Not forcing," she corrected gently. "Though I admit I'm more comfortable with copper pots than court politics. As am I. Which is why my father assigned me to Rodvostock rather than keeping me at the capital." There was no bitterness in his tone, only pragmatic acceptance. "Theodore has the temperament for court. I'm better suited to provincial governance." "And do you resent that assessment?" He considered the question seriously. "No. Rodvostock has challenges enough to occupy a curious mind. And certain freedoms impossible at court." His gaze held hers. "Including the freedom to hire a foreign chef without 16 committees debating the decision." They had reached a small pavilion overlooking a lily pond. Prince Isaac guided her to a stone bench, taking a seat beside her at a respectful distance. "May I ask something personal, Miss Newell?" "Of course, Your Highness." "Why did you accept this position?" A talented chef from London might have found placement in any great house in England. "Why travel to the edges of the empire?" The directness of the question demanded honesty. "Because I needed to escape. After my father died, there was nothing left for me but memories and Lord Darlington's cruelty." "Darlington?" His brow furrowed. "Not Henry Darlington?" "Yes. You know of him. We met during a trade delegation. An unpleasant man with delusions of refinement." His expression darkened. "Did he mistreat you?" Olivia looked away, unwilling to revisit those humiliations. "He was not a kind employer." Prince Isaac's hand covered hers, warm and steady. "Then I am doubly glad you came to Rodvostock." The moment stretched between them, fragile and charged with unspoken possibility. In the distance, the orchestra began a new piece, the music drifting through the garden like another presence. "I should return to the ball," he said finally, reluctance evident in his voice. "My absence will be noted, and speculation serves neither of us." "Of course, Your Highness." As they rose, he retained her hand. "One day, Olivia, I hope you will call me Isaac when we're alone." Before she could respond, he had raised her hand to his lips in a brief, formal gesture, then escorted her back toward the palace. At the garden entrance, he released her arm with obvious regret. "Enjoy the evening. Dance if you wish. My household is free to participate fully in the celebrations." Then he was gone, striding back into the glittering ballroom to resume his imperial duties. The Emperor's departure the following morning marked a return to normalcy at Silvershore House. Summer yielded to autumn, the social whirl of the imperial visit replaced by the quieter rhythms of provincial life. Prince Isaac resumed his governance duties, often traveling to outlying districts for days at a time. Olivia found herself missing their conversations during these absences. She compensated by exploring the province's culinary traditions more deeply, visiting markets and fishing villages, learning from local cooks. Each new discovery became something to share upon his return, a special dish, a unique preparation method, a rare ingredient. One evening in late October, as the first autumn storms lashed the coast, Prince Isaac returned from a 3-day journey to the Western Mountains. Soaked and chilled from riding through the downpour, he came directly to the kitchen rather than his chambers. "You'll catch your death," Olivia scolded, immediately preparing hot tea while ordering a kitchen boy to fetch dry clothes from the prince's valet. "Worth it," he declared, accepting the steaming cup gratefully. The mountain villages had record harvests this year. Their storehouses are full for winter. He shrugged off his sodden coat, revealing a simple shirt beneath. "And I found something for you." From his satchel, he produced a small wooden box. Inside nestled a dozen black truffles, their earthy aroma immediately filling the kitchen. "Mountain truffles," he explained, evident pleasure in his eyes as she examined the treasure. "They grow only in the oak forests of the western province. Different from French or Italian varieties, sharper, with notes of hazelnut and something like aged cheese." Olivia lifted one reverently, inhaling its complex fragrance. "They're magnificent. I've never worked with this variety. The village elder insisted I bring them to the English chef who honors our traditions. Apparently, word of your interest in local ingredients has spread." His smile turned sheepish. "I may have spoken of your talents rather frequently during my visits." The admission brought warmth to her cheeks. "You'll have them for dinner tomorrow. Perhaps with the new pasta technique I've been practicing? The texture would complement the truffle's intensity." "Perfect." He watched her return the truffles to their box, his expression growing serious. "There's something else. The Imperial courier brought dispatches while I was away. My brother Nikolai is coming to Rodvostok." "The naval commander?" Prince Nikolai was the emperor's second son, known throughout the empire for his brilliant naval strategy during the recent colonial wars. "Yes. Officially, he's conducting a review of our coastal defenses. Unofficially." He hesitated. "He carries a marriage proposal. The emperor believes an alliance with the Novgorod dynasty would strengthen our northern borders." Something cold settled in Olivia's stomach. "I see. Princess Elise of Novgorod is said to be very beautiful." "So I'm told." He set down his cup, eyes fixed on the swirling tea leaves. "Nikolai arrives in a week. There will be formal dinners, presentations, the usual diplomatic circus. But first, he wishes to spend a few days here, away from official scrutiny." "Of course. I'll prepare suitable menus for a prince of the blood." Olivia. Her name, rarely used, caught her attention. Nikolai is different from Theodore. More observant. Less constrained by convention. He met her gaze directly. He will notice things others might overlook. The warning was clear, though delicately phrased. Whatever had grown between them, this fragile, unnamed connection would be subject to imperial scrutiny. Prince Isaac was telling her to guard herself, to maintain propriety more strictly than ever. "I understand, Your Highness." The formality seemed to pain him, but he nodded acceptance. "Have Stefan arranged suitable quarters in the East Wing? My brother appreciates privacy above luxury." After he departed to change into dry clothes, Olivia remained in the kitchen, the truffle box forgotten on the counter. She had always known, intellectually, that Prince Isaac's position carried obligations beyond personal preference. That imperial princes married for dynastic reasons, not sentiment. Yet the reality of it struck her now with unexpected force. Foolish girl, she chided herself. Did you imagine fairy tales came true? Prince Nikolai arrived on a crisp November morning, his naval frigate cutting an impressive figure in Rodvostok's harbor. Unlike the pomp of the emperor's visit, his arrival was marked by military precision rather than ceremony, a small honor guard, a brief exchange of salutes, then a swift journey to Silvershore House. Olivia, watching from the kitchen windows, noted the similarities between the brothers immediately. Prince Nikolai shared Isaac's height and bearing, though his build was leaner, his movements more deliberate. Where Isaac's expressions were open, Nikolai's features remained composed, revealing nothing of his thoughts. That evening, she prepared a dinner showcasing Rodvostok's autumn bounty, roasted game hen with mountain truffles, local squash prepared 3 ways, and a dessert of poached pears in spiced wine. She served each course herself, as had become her custom for important meals, keeping her eyes lowered and her manner professional. Throughout the meal, the brothers conversed in the easy shorthand of those who share both blood and experience. They discussed naval matters, provincial governance, mutual acquaintances. Only when coffee was served did Prince Nikolai finally acknowledge her presence directly. "Miss Newell, you've managed something I thought impossible." She paused in pouring the dark, fragrant liquid. "Your Highness? You've made my ascetic brother appreciate luxury." His smile contained genuine warmth. "I've not seen Isaac enjoy meals so thoroughly since before Vienna." The casual reference to the poisoning incident surprised her. "His Highness is a discerning patron." "Indeed." Prince Nikolai's eyes, a shade lighter than his brother's but equally perceptive, studied her. "Unfortunate to have found you." The truffle dish, in particular, demonstrated remarkable sensitivity to both ingredient and audience. "Thank you, Your Highness." Nikolai has always appreciated the strategic applications of gastronomy, Prince Isaac observed, an edge of warning in his tone. "True. Food reveals much about place and people." Prince Nikolai accepted his coffee with a nod. Just as a chef's choices reveal her understanding of her patron. Later, after both princes had retired to the library, Olivia lingered in the kitchen, meticulously cleaning copper pots that were already spotless. Prince Nikolai's assessment had unsettled her. There had been something knowing in his gaze, something that suggested he saw more than a chef serving her employer. Her anxiety proved warranted the following afternoon. As she returned from the market, arms laden with fresh herbs and late-season vegetables, Prince Nikolai emerged from the rose garden that flanked the kitchen entrance. "Allow me, Miss Newell." He relieved her of several packages with easy grace. "These gardens are Isaac's pride, though I suspect he doesn't indulge in gardening himself." "The head gardener consults with His Highness on all plantings," she replied carefully, leading the way to the kitchen. "He has particular interest in the herb gardens." "Practical as always, my brother." Prince Nikolai set the packages on the work table, then leaned against it in a casual posture that nonetheless blocked her path slightly. "Do you mind if I speak frankly, Miss Newell?" Every instinct warned her to deflect, to maintain formal distance, but his position made refusal impossible. "Of course, Your Highness. I've known Isaac all his life. Stood beside him through campaigns, illnesses, triumphs, and that damnable business in Vienna that nearly killed him." His voice remained conversational, but his eyes held hers intently. "In all that time, I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you when he thinks no one notices." Olivia felt blood rush to her face. "Your Highness, I assure you," he raised a hand. "Please. I'm not Theodore, looking for scandal where none exists. Nor am I father, obsessed with bloodlines and alliances." His expression softened. "I'm merely a brother concerned for Isaac's happiness." "I don't understand." "Don't you?" He straightened. "My brother was sent to Rodvostok as a form of exile. Manageable, honorable exile, but exile nonetheless. After Vienna, his difficulties made him unpresentable at court. The emperor feared showing weakness to our rivals." Olivia's hands tightened on the edge of the work table. "That's monstrous. That's imperial politics." Prince Nikolai's smile held no humor. Isaac accepted his fate with characteristic stoicism. He built a life here, governed well, fulfilled his duties. But until you arrived, I don't believe he had found joy. Your Highness, whatever you imagine exists between Prince Isaac and myself, I imagine nothing. I observe. He moved toward the door, then paused. The marriage proposal I carry is real. Princess Elise is indeed beautiful, politically advantageous, and thoroughly suitable. Isaac will accept it because duty has been bred into him since birth. His gaze held hers. Unless someone gives him reason to refuse. With that enigmatic statement, he departed, leaving Olivia alone with her tumultuous thoughts. The following days passed in a blur of preparations. Prince Nikolai's diplomatic duties began in earnest, requiring formal dinners at both Silvershore House and the provincial palace. Olivia threw herself into her work, creating menus that showcased both her technical skill and her understanding of imperial preferences. If she was more reserved than usual, more carefully professional in her interactions with Prince Isaac, no one remarked upon it. Then came the night that changed everything. A violent storm had swept in from the bay, driving rain against the windows and howling through the garden trees. The formal dinner planned at the provincial governor's residence had been postponed, leaving both princes at Silvershore for the evening. Olivia had prepared a simple meal, served in the small dining room rather than the formal hall, then retired to her quarters earlier than usual, pleading a headache. Unable to sleep, she sat by her window watching lightning illuminating the churning bay. Her conversation with Prince Nikolai played in her mind like a melody she couldn't silence. Unless someone gives him reason to refuse. The presumption of it stung. As if she would declare feelings for a prince, even if such feelings existed. As if her position allowed such liberties. As if the gap between them could ever be bridged. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Assuming it was Marina with the herbal tea she had requested earlier, Olivia called, "Enter." The door opened to reveal Prince Isaac, still in his evening clothes though he had discarded his jacket and formal cravat. He appeared as startled as she felt. "Forgive me," he said immediately. "I should not have disturbed you." "Your Highness." She rose quickly, acutely aware of her informal state, hair loose around her shoulders, wearing only a simple nightgown and dressing robe. "Is something wrong? Do you require something from the kitchen?" "No." He remained in the doorway, maintaining a proper distance. "I was concerned about your health. Marina mentioned a headache." "It's nothing serious. Just tension from the preparations." She gestured vaguely. "The storm doesn't help." Thunder punctuated her words, rattling the window pines. Prince Isaac's gaze moved to the view behind her, the dark bay occasionally illuminated by jagged lightning. "The local fishermen call these truth storms," he said. "They believe the elements strip away pretense, leaving only what is real and essential." Something in his voice, a tension, a suppressed emotion, made her heart quicken. "Is that why you've come, Your Highness? For truth?" He met her eyes then, his expression raw with an emotion she had never seen there before. "Nikolai spoke to you." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "Yes." "Then you know about the marriage proposal." He stepped fully into the room, closing the door behind him. The action crossed a boundary of propriety they had both carefully maintained for months. Princess Elise of Novgorod. 22 years old. Educated in Paris. Accomplished in music and languages. A perfect imperial consort. She sounds suitable in every way. Yes. He moved closer, stopping an arm's length away. The Emperor expects my answer within the month. The diplomatic arrangements are already being drafted. Olivia forced herself to meet his gaze steadily. "Then you must do your duty, Your Highness." "Must I?" The question hung between them, charged with all they had never said. "What if I told you I cannot imagine marrying someone whose cooking I cannot fully taste? Someone who doesn't understand that food is honesty made tangible." His voice lowered. "Someone who isn't you." The confession left her breathless. Isaac. His name, spoken without title for the first time, seemed to break something in him. He closed the distance between them, taking her hands in his. "I have respected the boundaries of our positions," he said urgently. "I have maintained propriety. I have honored the distance between prince and servant. But tonight, in this storm that demands truth." His fingers tightened around hers. "I cannot pretend any longer that my feelings for you are proper or contained." "What are you saying?" "That I love you." The words, simple and unadorned, filled the room like the storm's thunder. "That I have loved you since you restored taste to my world. That I cannot imagine a life where you are not creating in my kitchen, challenging my thoughts, filling my home with your quiet strength." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. "You cannot mean this. You are a prince of the imperial blood. I am a chef, a servant." "No." He touched her cheek gently. You are the woman who saved me from a half-life. Who showed me that what was broken could be mended? Who created beauty from simple ingredients just as you created purpose from my isolation? The Emperor would never permit it. Your brother Theodore can go to hell, he interrupted with unexpected vehemence. And my father? He paused, consideration tempering his passion. My father wants political advantage. But Nikolai has reminded him that I am third in line, unlikely ever to ascend. My value lies in provincial stability, not dynastic alliance. Hope, dangerous and fragile, flickered in Olivia's chest. What are you suggesting? A morganatic marriage. Not unknown in the imperial family for those distant from succession. You would not be a princess of the blood, but you would be my wife in all legal and personal aspects. His eyes searched hers. If you'll have me. Outside, lightning cracked directly overhead, illuminating the room in stark white light. In that frozen moment, Olivia saw everything clearly, the love in his eyes, the future he offered, the courage it would require from both of them. Yes, she whispered as darkness returned. Yes, I will have you. His kiss, when it came, tasted of certainty and promise, and perhaps a hint of the truffles from dinner, their earthiness a reminder of how they had found each other through food and honesty. The announcement of Prince Isaac Demetriou's engagement to Miss Olivia Newell, formerly of London, created precisely the scandal one might expect. Crown Prince Theodore denounced it as inappropriate. The imperial court whispered of enchantment and ambition. Princess Elise of Novgorod, reportedly, merely shrugged and redirected her matrimonial aspirations toward a Swedish duke. Emperor Alexandros, after initial resistance, yielded to the combined persuasion of Prince Nikolai's strategic arguments and his wife's unexpected support. The Empress, upon receiving a detailed account of the Vienna poisoning and Olivia's role in Isaac's recovery, declared it a love story worthy of imperial exception. The wedding took place the following spring in Rodvostok's ancient cathedral, witnessed by provincial nobility and a carefully selected imperial delegation. Prince Nikolai stood as his brother's second, beaming with satisfaction at the outcome of his intervention. Olivia wore a gown of silver-white silk, her father's favorite copper measuring spoon sewn into the hem as her something old. In her hands, she carried white plum blossoms from Silvershore's gardens, the first blooms of the season, symbolizing new beginnings. The marriage contract, signed by the emperor himself, established her position as Isaac's legal wife and the future mother of his children, though any offspring would stand outside the imperial succession. It granted her the title of Lady Demetriou, with all rights and privileges thereto, a compromise that satisfied protocol while acknowledging the reality of their union. At the wedding feast, prepared by chefs from the imperial household under Olivia's direction, Prince Isaac raised a toast that silenced the assembled guests. To my wife, who saved a failing restaurant called My Life, he declared, his gaze never leaving hers. Who taught me that taste is merely the beginning of nourishment? And who proved that love, like the finest cuisine, requires both boldness and patience to perfect? Later, as they danced under the stars in Silvershore's gardens, he whispered in her ear, I have a confession. Another one, she teased, her heart light with happiness. I can taste other people's cooking now, at least partially. The court physicians believe the condition has improved with time. She pulled back to study his face. Then you didn't need me after all. His arms tightened around her. I needed you from the moment we met. The rest was merely Providence giving me an excuse to keep you near. He touched her cheek gently. Besides, nothing will ever taste as true as what you create. Your dishes will always be the standard by which all others are judged. Because I cook with love, she suggested, only half joking. Because you cook with honesty, he corrected softly. And in a world of imperial machinations and political facades, that honesty saved more than my palate. It saved my soul. As midnight approached and the celebration continued around them, they slipped away to the small pavilion by the lily pond where they had first acknowledged the possibility between them. There, under a spring moon that silvered the water and illuminated new blossoms, Isaac and Olivia began their improbable, wonderful life together, a prince and his chef, bound by taste and truth and the courage to choose love over convention.